where we're joined by Jordana Miller from ABC. Jordana, thanks for just speaking to us on this event. It has been dubbed by some Western allies as a possible inflection point, a turning point in the war. However, Benjamin Netanyahu is saying that until the hostages are released from Gaza, nothing is going to happen. What do you see happening from now?
Well, I think it's an open question now, what is going to come next, and much of it will depend on what the Israeli prime minister decides. He is at a real crossroads right now. Remember, killing Hamas's leadership was one of the aims of the war, and he has accomplished that now by killing Yahya Sinwar, which, by the way, turned out to be a kind of, if you will, coincidental killing, right? 3 suspects moving between buildings, routine combat unit that noticed them, went after them. These happen to be reserve soldiers who've spent months in Gaza, not special forces. They saw one go into a building on his own. They sent in a drone. His face was covered. They still didn't know it was Sinwar, and they proceeded to kill him as they would anyone. And then it turned out the next day when they went to go and look through the buildings that he was pulled out, and they suspected it was Sinwar. So this is a major accomplishment for Israel and Netanyahu. And the question is, will he use it now as a kind of off-ramp, and use it to end the fighting in Gaza and finally reach a ceasefire deal that will bring home those 97 hostages, right? The dead and the living, get them out and end the war. He has the opportunity now to do that. And even some believe he could try to negotiate to end the fighting in the north as well against Hezbollah.
But those
now,
beliefs...
Netanyahu will be holding consultations all day. And so far, we haven't heard in his immediate remarks after Sinwar's death, we haven't heard which way he will go. He both said to the Israeli public, the war is not over. There will be challenging days. But in his readout from his conversation with American President Joe Biden, he said the two leaders are going to work diligently to try to get a ceasefire. So I think the coming days will be very telling. But this is a major opportunity for Israel, and we'll see if Netanyahu takes it.
Jordana, just sorry, because those beliefs are being pushed by Western allies. In terms of Netanyahu himself, he is, as you say, under pressure from right-wing elements in his government, and the future of which is very much attached to the outcome of the war and the hostage release. Surely that kind of pressure is going to mean that the fighting will continue regardless of Sinwar's death.
Well, first of all, those two far-right parties and the Orthodox who have kept Netanyahu in power, it is true that they have said they do not support a ceasefire now in the aftermath of Sinwar's death. But remember, there are plenty of parties in the opposition that would switch out and replace those parties if Netanyahu decides to move forward with a ceasefire deal. The idea that he is stuck in a corner by these parties is not true. This is what the parties, those right-wing parties, far right-wing parties, would like the Israeli public or the world to think. But that is not the case. Netanyahu can make a choice to cut a deal and bring in some of the opposition who would be happy to let him do that. The question is whether Netanyahu, and much of it really is in his hands, whether he believes that enough damage has been done to Hamas. And also part of it is in the hands of Hamas, who takes over. It's believed the political leader sitting in Doha will take over. That is Khalid Mashal and Sinwar's deputy. And those two are both seen to be more moderate and more susceptible or vulnerable to pressure from Qatar. So they may also move more quickly now to end the war.
In terms of Yahya Sinwar, if we just look at him, his rise through the ranks of Hamas and actually starting amongst the military wing of the organization in the late 80s. What's to prevent Another Yahya Sinwar from Rising Again. Does Israel really think that this action can do just that?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, we have to remember that Netanyahu's goal is to push Hamas as a governing body out of the Gaza Strip, not just destroy them or dismantle their military infrastructure. So could there be someone who, over the next decade, will rise through the ranks to become the new Yahya Sinwar of Hamas? That is almost a certainty. But the question is, will they do it from the Gaza Strip? And that seems much more unlikely now. Perhaps they will rise through the ranks in Doha or in Tehran or in Beirut or Damascus. But the whole point here is that Israel is unwilling to allow Hamas to regroup or rebuild, and that includes its leadership from the Gaza Strip, right? That's one of Netanyahu's goals. So certainly, killing Yahya Sinwar is not going to be the absolute end of Hamas, but it will take them some time to find a leader like Yahya Sinwar. His genius, quote unquote, for the radical Palestinian faction that he led was that he understood Israeli culture so well. Remember, he spent 2 decades in an Israeli prison. He learned Hebrew fluently, and he almost masterfully, if you will, really found out what Israel's Achilles heel was, right? Its weak points, both as a culture and militarily, and he was able to plan that deadly surprise attack on October 7th. He will not easily be replaced in the same way that Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, will not be easily replaced. That doesn't mean the organizations are going to go away, but they are weakened right now.
Jordana, thank you so much, as always, for your insight there. Jordana Miller joining us from Jerusalem.